Yo, what's good? So I'm gonna take a look at the Carolina Panthers depth chart. I'll go through what positional battles they might have in training camp, who's gonna win each spot, just kind of get my thoughts overall on the roster. So the first position receiver, DJ Moore, yeah, that's your number one receiver. Really good underrated receiver, I think. I think he could have another good season. It just depends on the quarterback play. And then Robbie Anderson next to him as that deep threat. He's very good at that. I don't think he'll be as good as he was last year, but I think he'll still be really productive as a good deep threat. And those plays will show up where he'll just burn people deep. He'll have some good highlight plays. And then I think it does this every time. It just loads. Oh, I just got reloaded. My laptop's kind of dumb, you know that? It's kind of annoying. Yeah, so the third receiver position is either going to be David Moore or Terrace Marshall. I think starting off, it could be David Moore at the start of the season, just because he's more of a veteran and he's has more experience in league, and Terrace Marshall's kind of a raw receiver. Just really good athlete, good deep threat, needs some time to develop into a better receiver. So I think that's why David Moore will probably take that third receiver spot. He can play in the slot. I think he could play there straight away. But I also could see Terrace Marshall getting a lot of reps. As a fourth receiver, he will get in at plays. I think nearing the end of the season, like halfway through, he could take over that number one receiver and take more snaps from David Moore. And I like David Moore though, so that's why I think he'll take that number three receiver spot. And then the rest of the receivers, Zylstra, he's alright for some plays. Keith Kirkwood's actually pretty decent. He just gets injured. And then Shi Smith, who they drafted, I think he could have a good chance to get that fifth receiver spot because he was pretty good at South Carolina, so I like him there. So yeah, and then the O-line just in general, there's still quite a lot of holes. Their tackles are good with Taylor Moton. He's going to be your star. You franchise tag him. You're probably going to try and get a long-term deal with him because he's very good. And then at the other tackle position, it's probably going to be a battle between Cam Irvin, Brady Christensen, and Greg Little. I don't think it'll be Greg Little. He's not very good. I feel like it could probably be Cameron Irving because he's more experienced. Also, Brady Christensen's already 25. You kind of want to see what he has. So, personally, I'd probably start Brady Christensen. I just don't know if it happens. They signed Cam Irving to a pretty decent contract. I'm pretty sure he could start at their tackle position. And then Greg Little can just be a swing tackle and Brady Christensen back up. But I would start Brady Christensen because he's already pretty old. You need to see what he is. You don't want to just his first season be when he's 26 years old. You don't. I think you want to see what you got, and maybe you got a really good tackle there because he definitely has that possibility. And then guard, they got Dennis Daly listed here. Deontay Brown could definitely win out the guard position because he was pretty decent at Alabama. Just a really good run blocker. That's kind of it. Pass rush, not really, because he's just a massive dude who just move you in the run game, not in the pass game. Finesse rushers, they will just destroy him. But it was a good player where they got him, and he could definitely compete for that guard position. And then center, Matt Paradis, yeah, he's your center, unless he gets injured, which he was mostly last year. So we'll just have to see with that. And then the other guard, Pat Eiflin, yeah, he'll probably have to start there. They don't really got much out. I think John Miller, though, could start at guard. He's all right. He's not amazing, but him and Pat Eiflin are just not really good guards. Just kind of see who wins out that position. And David Moore also, I quite like from Grambling State. He's another really big guard who has some upside. So I quite like David Moore being a good backup. They got some good backups at the guard position. Maybe they also got some stars in the future. And then tight end, Dan Arnold. Yeah, he's a pretty good vertical type of tight end. Not really a blocking tight end. That's kind of all he is. And then they got Ian Thomas and Tommy Tremble. Tommy Tremble will probably be that second tight end, primarily blocking tight end. They like their blocking tight ends. Though he'll be on the field for pretty much every single run game because he's a very good run blocker. Can also catch the ball pretty well. So I think they could get him more involved in the passing game. I think he'd be pretty good at that. And Ian Thomas, just another blocker. They just like blocking tight ends. They don't really use tight ends that much in the pass game, but they did sign Dan Arnold, who's more of a receiving tight end. And I think Tommy Tremble can do that also. And now the quarterback position, yeah, Sam Darnold, he'll be your starter. And you got a decent backup in PJ Walker, who showed some flashes. Wasn't amazing when he did play, but did show some good plays. And then Will Greer, not really turned into anything. He hasn't really got a good chance to really show what he is. I mean, you see in the preseason he could maybe do something. And then Tommy Stevens, just a bad Taysom Hill. That's what they tried to use him against the Saints in the last game of the season. They were basically just running him QB powers. It's kind of funny. And then running back position, Christian McCaffrey, yeah, one of the best running backs in the league. So that's a good starter. And then the backup, there's going to be another competition. I think Chuba Hubbard probably wins that. Reggie Bonifant wasn't bad when he came in at points last year. Trenton Cannon, more of a special teamer. So I think Chuba Hubbard could probably win that second running back, because he was a very high touted prospect before last year, where he just wasn't that impressive. Like, he was pretty decent, just not as good as he was the year before, so people kind of forgot about him a bit. So yeah, fullback, Mason Stud, they lost Alex Armour, not really a big deal. And then the defensive end, they got one of the best, Brian Burns. I really like Brian Burns. He's a good player, just really good athlete. I think he could have a lot of sacks because he got a lot of pressure. If he can just turn all his pressures into sacks, I think he can be like up there with the top pass rushers in the league. And they got Morgan Fox to back him up. He's pretty versatile. He's pretty big. He's more of like a defensive tackle, but also has some good pass rush, because he's not amazing in the run game, but pass rushing defensive end slash tackle, he's pretty good from the Rams, so that's a good pickup. Pretty good replacement for Obata. And then the defensive tackle, Bravion Roy, Derek Brown, Davion Nixon, they're all pretty good. Those are some good pickups. Even Daquan Jones, he's a good run stopper from Tennessee. Nose tackle, they don't really have a nose tackle list. Him and Derek Brown, they're kind of their nose tackles. And then Bravion Roy and Davion Nixon. Davion Nixon is a really good athlete, more of a pass rusher, so I like it. And then I also picked up Phil Hoskins, who was pretty decent. He could definitely make the roster. And then the other defensive end, Gross Matos, yeah, I expect him to maybe take a step up. They're kind of relying on him quite a lot. Kind of that only other that edge rusher they got. They don't really got a lot of edge rushers. They got some outside linebackers that can rush the passer, but Gross Matos as a good defensive end, I like it. And then Shaq Thompson, their linebacker position, yeah, Shaq Thompson, Denzel Perriman, they'll be your two starting linebackers there. And then the backups, they got Frankie Luvu, who's kind of more of a pass rusher, outside linebacker player, but he's pretty good as a backup. Even Patty Fisher, he'll be a really good special teamer. And then just the rest, just depth players. And then they picked up Hassan Reddick, who was very good last year, kind of had a breakout year. I think they signed him to like a pretty good contract. It's only 1 year. They got him for pretty good value. Taking a shot on a high upside pass rusher like Hassan Reddick, I think is a very good option, because you don't want to throw all the money at him because he only had 1 year of really elite production. But it's also a good scheme fit for Carolina. He can play that kind of outside linebacker. He'll rush the passer across from Brian Burns more. Him and Gross Matos probably split snaps. Well, I mean, Hassan Reddick probably get a bit more than splitting the snaps. But I think he could be good with Brian Burns across of him also. So I like that. Even Jermaine Carter's not a bad backup. So that was alright. And then cornerback, two starting cornerbacks, Dante Jackson, J.C. Horn, yeah. They'll be your outside corners probably. No, actually, I mean, they got A.J. Boye, though. A.J. Boye is not really a slot. I think Dante Jackson could play the slot. J.C. Horn, not really a slot corner. So it'd probably be J.C. Horn, A.J. Boye on the outside, and then Dante Jackson on the in the slot. That'd be pretty decent. And then at the other cornerback positions, they got Troy Pride, who I thought he could be a really good slot cornerback, but they kind of just signed a bunch of corners to basically take his spot. So I think, I mean, if injuries happen, you got a good backup. Even Rashawn Melvin's a pretty decent corner. Just a veteran presence, not as good as he was injured I think he opted out actually last year. So that's a fifth corner. That's a pretty good player. And then also Keith Taylor I like. This was a good draft pick. Keith Taylor, decent corner from Washington. Didn't really have ball protection. Didn't really get his hands on the ball. But as a cornerback, taking him later in the draft, I think he'd be a really good player. I think he could also turn into a decent cornerback in the league. He's never going to be anything amazing, but he could definitely. And then safety, Jeremy Chin, more of a box safety, but they only really play one safety deep. So it'd probably be Jeremy Chin. And then the other safeties, kind of a toss-up, who's going to be starting there. I mean, they got Delano Hill from Seattle. He'd probably have to be their star. Their safety position, to be honest, isn't looking very good. They can maybe move a player like Keith Taylor to safety. You never know. They got some versatile players. But Jeremy Chin, you got him locked up there. Not a deep safety, though, so you kind of need that deep safety. This is kind of going to have to see. There's going to be a big competition in camp to see who wins that position, because there's a lot of players that could have been, even like a Sean Chandler, but it's not amazing there. Justin Burris, yeah, he might. Even Sam Franklin, he was all right at some points last year. So just kind of have to see what happens. And then we'll have to go into special teams. Well, fun. Yeah, Joseph Charlton, punter. They also signed an undrafted free agent, Oster Dragovic. How do you say his name? Dragovic? Why did they do this? You're so annoying. You're so annoying. Sorry, people who are actually watching this. Yeah, okay, so, and then kicker, they got Joey Sly, massive leg. He's a pretty good kicker. Not that accurate, but big leg. And then long snapper, they drafted a freaking long snapper when they already have one, but future replacement for, JJ Johnson, they might move on from this year, but Thomas Fletcher is a good long snapper. Nothing special about that, though. And kick return, yeah, Trenton Cannon, he's a pretty good kick return. He'll probably be that. Punt return could be David Moore. There's some other guys also. If I'm just looking at the receiver position, Zylstra could be a kick returner. Shai Smith, actually, could be a pretty decent kick returner. There's some guys, even some of the running backs, Trenton Cannon could also be a kick returner. Probably a receiver, though. But, yeah, that's pretty decent. So that was the Carolina Panthers depth chart. Overall, pretty decent roster. They definitely got some holes on the defense. The defense is pretty young, and the offensive line's got some holes. Their skill positions are good, their corner, receiver, and running back. Those are all good. Their defensive line's pretty decent also. Linebacker position, Shaq Thompson's good. You don't really know about Denzel Perryman, though. Kind of just a big hitter. And safety, pretty weak besides Jeremy Chin. So there's some good positions, also some needs, but overall pretty decent roster for the Carolina Panthers. I just hope the Saints beat them twice like they do every single year. So have